We capture love, joy and grace. Every frame they speak your face. From Oka to the world, no debate. 95.
Welcome again to another episode of our voice podcast here at I-95 Studio. Okay, I'm Amanda Elo, and I promise you what I've come with today, you've never seen it before. This is March, and March is known for the is actually the Women's Month, as a matter of fact, globally. And this year's theme for the International Women's Day is rights, justice, action for all women and girls. I need you to emphasis on all women and girls. And for that reason, I've brought somebody, a health advocate, a woman's or women's health advocate. As a matter of fact, I brought her to the studio to talk to us on something very pressing. Forget that I'm smiling. It's a very serious health condition we're talking about. I'm talking of Nwaduto Okuniru Azugo, who is a public health parasitologist, researcher, and science communicator dedicated to eliminating neglected tropical diseases through culturally grounded community-led approaches. I have a lot of things to say about Azugo Nwaduto Okuniru, but I urge you to touch Google, type the name, and you'll see for yourself. It's amazing having you here today. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
How are you doing? The laughter.
Thank you.
I didn't tell them everything about you, because if I did tell you everything about her, by the way, currently she is studying for her PhD in parasitology, right? In environmental parasitology and public health at Uniport.
Yes,
Congratulations, well done.
Thank you so much.
So she made me come for this. She mentioned something somewhere, because I bumped into one of her works on social media, and it was talking about schistosomiasis. I have to check because I don't want to make mistakes. Schistosomiasis. This is a tropical disease that has been neglected over time, and she's here to talk about it today. I went through one of your programs recently, and you said, Njepu Amaka. And it got to me. And so I'm asking you today, Njepu Maramba, how did this advocacy journey begin? Kedifi Jejapaba.
I don't want to sound like, and thank you so much for having me.
You're
on this studio.
welcome.
This is amazing. I don't want to sound like, when you say, how did you get into acting? Or how did you get into art? And you're like, oh, I started when I was 2 years old.
2 years old.
But the truth actually is that my journey in advocacy was a result of my upbringing.
Okay.
My both parents are civil servants, retired civil servants now. That's my dad, and he will be proud that I say this because he's always mentioning it. Make sure you tell them.
Ah.
My dad is an experimental parasitologist as well. So I grew up at a time, my early childhood was formed at a time when my dad was pursuing his PhD after retirement. And ironically, he pursued his PhD in the parasites of snails. And I'd follow him around the farm every evening just after it rains. It was the ideal time to catch the snails he needed. So I'd follow him, my brother and I, with the torchlights around the farmlands around us as we were picking snails. And as a teacher, he always uses every opportunity as a teachable moment. So I knew a lot about diseases and parasites long before I even knew some basic things in basic primary school. But I knew some of those things. And he too, in his own way, was a community advocate. My both parents are not just civil servants, they are community servants. So whether they were advocating for erosion control or rehabilitating primary schools that are dilapidated, they were advocating, always teaching our community members. My dad would have, uncles in the compound drinking with him, and he was teaching them about elephantiasis, for instance, or river blindness, and how it was important to treat themselves, or how some health miscommunications were the reason why they were going through what they were going through at that point. But I think aside from my family, aside from my parents, the most important person in my public health journey, in my advocacy journey, was my auntie nurse.
Oh.
Her name is Miss Nkichi Ezui. She has been a nursing practitioner for, I think, over 40 years now. But growing up, way before we had the Model Primary Health Center in my quarter, I grew up in Unobi, Anambra State. Way before we had the Model Primary Health Care Center in the Umuago quarters of Unobi, Auntie Nurse was our first point of contact when it came to healthcare services and
Before
needs.
hospitals.
Before hospitals. She was the community health worker. She had a small shop, a one-room shop, a chemist shop, stashed in between a carpenter's workshop and a grandma selling akara. And it is in front of that her shop, on her bench. I would sit on her bench as I waited for the school bus every morning.
Wow.
So while sitting down there, I would observe. On the walls of the shop, you would see it was like a typical mini hospital, really, because it wasn't just a chemist shop, it was also a sort of community health education center. She would have posters of these diseases on her walls. I never knew they were neglected tropical diseases until I got to learn about them in school. But I knew what they were. I knew the local names people had for it.
For them.
Because that was the way she taught the community members. You would come with an illness and she would teach you, not just give you the drugs. She would even refer you when there were cases she couldn't handle. You need to go to the teaching hospital, for instance. You need to go and see Dr. this or Dr. that. She would write referrals for them. And most importantly, she taught them. She used the language they could understand. She would call things like elephantiasis, okwabashu. I remember that name very well.
A lot of us still call it that.
I remember that name growing up because it was funny. She would call elephantiasis okwabashu. She would call river blindness isianyocha. She would break it down in a way that the community members
would understand.
So I think eventually I would end up studying snail parasites that affect human beings. Unlike my father who studied the snail parasites themselves.
Just themselves. So you're particularly, sorry I'm cutting you because I know you still bring it in. You are your parents' daughter and your auntie's niece. Indeed. You know how they say train up a child in the way they should and when they grow up they shall never depart from it. That's what's happening. This is a clear example of it here. Now let's talk about this disease, especially one of the neglected tropical disease, which is
Schistosomiasis.
Yes, schistosomiasis. Why are you sensitive to this particular disease? Tell us more about it.
All right. So, schistosomiasis is a neglected tropical disease, and for people who do not know, because these are long names. I understand neglected tropical disease, schistosomiasis is like all these iasis.
Indeed, that was the first thing I said.
But neglected tropical disease in general, I group about currently 21 diseases that affect poor communities.
There are 21 neglected tropical diseases?
Neglected tropical diseases.
In 2026?
Including snake bite and venoming. And I know that current conversations are around snake bites, but that's to show you how neglected these diseases are, that they are not mainstream. So it includes snake bite and venoming, like I mentioned. There are about 21 of them. Malaria is excluded. However, outside malaria, schistosomiasis in particular is the second most devastating neglected tropical disease, or the second most devastating tropical disease. Schistosomiasis, in simple terms, is snail fever.
Snail fever.
Yes.
That's the name.
Yes. Historically, it was called bilharziasis after the man who identified the parasite. But let's call it snail fever for the long name issue. Let's call it snail fever, for instance. Now, the disease, I am sensitive about it for several reasons. Most importantly, because of its effects on the female body. But because, one, like I mentioned, it affects the poor. And two, it is a kind of disease that is intertwined into the daily lives of our people.
How so?
Especially down here. You see, you cannot separate our people from the rivers that feed them.
Rivers, okay.
And in Anambra State here, for instance, at least every community has at least one river, one water body. It could be a river, a lake, a pond, but there is one
water body, indeed.
In one community, and they are always so very proud of that river. So there is that too. And these rivers have economic importance. They have a domestic importance. They also have a religious importance. They have a cultural importance. They have a social importance. Many of our mothers and aunties back in the village will not know whose burial is on so date or whose wedding is on so date if they don't go to the river.
River
to
to
hear the gist.
gist.
Do you understand? So it's so intertwined into their daily lives. It's so intertwined into the lives of our people. And when a disease is tied to a behavioral pattern, it is often difficult to control or eliminate, because how do you begin to explain to somebody who has been going to this river for decades, whose ancestors have been going to this river for decades, that there is an issue with the water they've been going to? You're talking chicken.
Can
Then,
imagine.
Finally, like I mentioned, it affects the female body. Schistosomiasis has several forms, actually. Two major forms are intestinal and urogenital. And there are different kinds of parasites that cause each of these forms of disease. But I'm more particular about the urogenital aspect of it, which can either present as male genital schistosomiasis, as it affects the male, and female genital schistosomiasis, as it affects the female. Now, the parasite's life cycle is such that it lives in the urinary tract, and the urinary tract and the genital tract are interconnected. So it inadvertently affects the genital area. I don't know if we have the time for me to break down the life cycle, do we?
Just go ahead. Let's see where it goes.
All right, so let's call her Nenia. Nenia is a young woman, say in her mid-30s, and she is a farmer, right? She has a vegetable farm close to the river. And she goes there, she plants her ugu, her eliamiono, her mbolodi, her onubu, her bitter leaf, and water leaf, and the rest of them. And when she's done, she goes to the river to wash them, especially the bitter leaf. She washes them in the river, and then she carries it to the nearest market day. So if she were living in Nimo, for instance, she would go to Oye Nimo today. Tomorrow she's in
Afonobi.
and the rest of them, until she sells her wares. But the point is, she washes it in
the river.
Right? And so that same river has bushes around it, right? And the environment already, the ecology of that environment allows for certain snails to be present. There are snails in our communities. Many of us eat those snails. Many of our communities, like I'm from Novi,
I know, so but
that's not the point. But we know the snails are there. In fact, you bring the snail samples to the students and they can identify, oh, this is pipiro now.
Oh, really?
Yes, they can identify them very easily. The species easily. And so the snails are present in the water, in the river bodies. Now the parasites, before I delve into the parasite, is unique in that it's just trying to survive, really. It is just trying to survive. So it has to live two stages in its life. Its larval stage and its adult stage. So let's break it down to its teenage years and its adult years. So it cannot reach that teenage age maturity unless it is in a snail host. So it gets into the snail host when the snail is in the water trying to maybe lay eggs or just taking a drink. The snail is around the water bank. The parasite is waiting close to those water banks, sometimes close to the vegetations, and the snail picks up the parasites. It grows within the snail host until it gets to that particular stage, that teenage stage. We call it the cercaria. And the snail sheds the cercaria. The snail goes through its own activities, getting along the river banks, or even entering into the water and sheds the cercaria into the water.
Wow.
Nenia has come to wash her
vegetables.
Of course, she washes her vegetable by the riverbank. And her knees and her legs and her hands are all soaked and embedded into the water
infested.
She's washing her vegetable. The cercaria gets into her system, penetrates into her skin. By penetrating into her skin, it gets into her system. She feels itching.
Oh, it doesn't even need to go through the vagina. It just...
No. Your skin pores. Your skin pores is okay. It penetrates into your skin. Her skin itches. She may feel a little bit of irritation. Her skin itches, but it's nothing, right? Or maybe she just has her home meal. It's nothing, right? So she continues doing what she's doing. And then she goes on. But it's one parasite. It's like a pinch of salt in a bottle of water. It's just one parasite. So she perhaps will not feel anything. She can live with it her whole life. But the problem is, she's always
Going to the water.
To the water. And so reinfection and infection keeps occurring. So the parasite gets into her body. And it's not one, it's always two, male and female. And in her body, they develop
And start reproducing?
and grow into adults. The female will carry the male and they will start laying eggs. Wow. Did they lay one? No. Did they lay 100? No. Thousands of eggs.
Really?
In a human being system. They will lodge themselves either in her kidney, her urethra, her bladder, because they like those areas, those tissues. It's like our body is a real estate for them. Your best, your choicest land area. You go and sit there. So they take over those areas of her system. And eventually they start laying eggs. And because they are in the urinary tract, she wants to pass urine, right?
Yes.
She passes the urine with those eggs out into, sometimes close to the water. And she's washing vegetable. She feels to ease herself. She goes toward the covering of bushes by the riverbank, right? And eases herself. And then maybe when the rain falls, or even with the land system and the soil system, everything that
goes back into the river.
The cycle continues. But there is now where the problem comes. Because it's just passing eggs, right? What will the egg do? The problem is that these eggs of this particular parasite, they are called Schistosoma hematobi. They have sharp, spiny ends, sharp pointed ends like needles, very sharp. And so as you're pushing your urine out through your urethra, through your system, they are causing wounds and lacerations in your tissues, right? Scratching your tissues, causing wounds,
bruises,
lacerations rather. And so eventually, as the parasites begin to grow more and more inside her body, she notices that for her to pass urine, she develops such a huge pain in her abdomen. But not just that, she sees blood in her urine. And because she doesn't know that this is a problem, she might pass it on as, this is just my menstrual cycle, it's one of those things. And again, the conversation around women's health, right? It's not a big deal for her. Because who would even listen
to her without shaming her?
Without shaming her. Very important. Who would even listen to her without shaming her? So it becomes one of those hidden pains that women carry for years and years and years. Now, Nenya has gotten married. It's time to start having children. Right? And the parasite burden in her system is now so heavy that it has gotten into her cervix, into her genital tract. From her cervix, of course, it will embed in the tissues, grow into boils that we call rubbery papules, and other boils that we call granulomas. It has caused wounds on her cervix and has found a way to move through her bloodstream in that cervix into her fallopian tube. Nenya cannot keep a pregnancy. She has either ectopic pregnancy today, or she has got one's sexually transmitted infection
that make her miscarry,
or makes her to miscarry, and eventually she's shamed for not having a child, right? But all this was simply because she had to go to the water to wash her vegetables
to make a living.
Thank you so much for breaking this down. I mean, she had to do it step by step, and also something relatable, someone relatable. Nenaya could be your auntie, Nenaya could be your daughter, Nenaya could be your mother or whoever. And that's why we're having this conversation today. So that by the time you're done with this, you maybe want to check on Google what this particular disease is all about and get even more, maybe more detailed discourse around this particular disease, so you can create awareness. That's why we're doing this sensitization. And that is what Mwadioto Azugo has been doing for a very long time. I want to ask you now, how has the journey been so far? You know, the good, the bad, the ugly. When it comes to advocacy on this,
me, I don't want to cry.
Oh, please don't cry. Oh, well, feel free to cry. That's okay.
Listen, so I've been working with communities in Anambra State since November 2017.
That's a long time ago.
My community was Achala, and it holds a beautiful place in my heart because of the warmth that we received there, but not just in Achala, all across Anambra State. I've worked in Achala, Okuzo, Ikulobia, Nsugbe, Ezinifiti, Adazinuku, Agolo, and right now I'm in my hometown of Onimo.
No, we.
And across every single one of these places, you come in contact, you come to the realization that there is abject poverty. I lost my train of thought.
You come to the realization there's abject poverty. Sorry, is she projecting enough?
Not really, because of. Okay, I think that should be progress.
Okay, so just
So all these things I've said
no, it's
was not-
entering. They work on it, but you can still go louder. Okay.
Okay. So where was I? Okay,
Abject
I said
poverty.
I didn't want to cry. Okay. So what one of the things is you come in contact with you come to reality of abject poverty. You know. I'm talking about the kind of poverty where if there is no sale for the day, there is no
There's no
money
food.
for the day. It's that bad. And to see that there are children who live in these conditions, who live in some communities where all the access to the healthcare they have. And you have to remember, when I was telling the story of Antinos, it was in the early 2000s. By the time I was 9 years old, we had a model primary healthcare center. And Antinos eventually started working there till she retired. But this is 2017. This is me living the bubble of the university, the bubble of my hometown that's had to a large extent so many amenities.
Comfort.
To go to other places and realize that there are people who live in areas where there are no borehole water available. There are people who live in areas where the model primary health care center they have is one room with a plastic chair, a plastic table, 2 plastic chairs, and a blue curtain to make sure you know that this is a hospital or a healthcare environment. It's that bad.
Is that bad?
It is really that bad.
Wow.
You see children who are suffering. I remember a child who had voided 48 worms, a young girl who had voided. Then we were working on soil transmitted helminths, which are roundworms, hookworms, you know them.
Yes.
Worms, all the groups of worms that children suffer as a consequence of eating soil, playing with soil, not washing their hands, not washing their fruits and vegetables. But is it her fault? She's a child. She ought to play with the sun. But then why isn't the treatment that is supposed to be free for them made available to them? So, and we think about these worms and we think, oh, it's just worms and stomach upset. But no, the science is there. These worms target the nutrients in the body that has to do with cognitive growth. And so for many of these children, they cannot sit still in class because they are hungry and they lack the nutrients that can make them to concentrate too, or even absorb what is being taught in class. So you see so many of these children and you call them slow, retarded, but they are not. They are hungry. And they are battling with a burden of worms that its weight is equal to the weight of their body. It's sometimes even more than the weight of their body.
You're saying worm could make these people not as sharp as they should be?
True.
Intellectually.
The science is there.
Wow.
There is a link between soil transmitted helminth infections and cognitive impairment.
Really?
So the good was for me to see the resilience of our communities. Our people are resilient.
I know that for a fact.
It's to see how eager they were. It wasn't a question of they did not know. The moment they knew, they began to take actions for themselves. The moment they knew, there are some communities. I remember community secondary school at Azinuku, some of the most resourceful group of adolescents I've ever met. Their school environment was so dilapidated that the entrance to their school, and we know this school, we see it on the way from Nimo to that junction at before you get to Ekulobia, I'm sorry, before you get to Oroku Water Junction, is along that stretch of road from Oyenimo. We see it all the time. We see that school as we are passing through that road. We see that river close to the school where many of the students go there to wash their vegetables for their mother as we're passing through that road. But the entrance of the school, as at that 2023, was a dump site. It was literally a dustbin. And you get into the school, and there were some modern facilities, new buildings that were just painted, but no classroom chairs.
Really?
Right? No classroom chairs, no boards. Some of the students bring their own chairs or use plastic chairs or sit on the
In
floor.
2023.
That was in 2023.
Wow.
In fact, one of the biggest memories this is one of the reasons I say they are very resourceful was I remember the principal's office was so dilapidated that it was falling apart. And on that day, it was the students, some of the male students, that were mixing sand and cement, building the principal's office with the money they contributed themselves. Students. Now, communities are so resilient. All you need to do is to tell them, teach them, make them aware, call them, bring this down to their level, then watch them, not wait for the government to provide anything for them, and begin to take care of themselves. And that's not to say that the government is not doing enough, by the way, because they are. But let's be real, these are neglected tropical diseases. And so most times the funding is not even available. So Anambra State has an NCD unit that is doing an amazing job, really. They are doing their best. They collaborate with researchers. They go into the communities. You cannot call them that you're having a campaign on NCDs without them being there and giving you the full support that you need, while still encouraging the community members to please make use of their health centers and report if the health centers don't have what they need. But that is the beauty of, that's the good for me. The good is to say that those areas that are at the intersection of certain inequalities are made visible. And to see that we have an active government that does something about it. The excuse is no longer we don't know. Now that we know, they do something about it.
Yes.
Same goes for the community. The excuse is no, we don't know. Now that we know, on our own, we do something about it. So that's the good for me. Recently, 5 months ago, or rather now 6 months ago, I went back home because, of course, charity should begin at home.
Sure.
Right? So I thought long and hard about the intersection of inequality that the hinterlands of Anambra State faces, Anambra Central in particular, when it comes to diseases like schistosomiasis. Down here in Anambra Central, the water is not so economically important.
Yes.
As it is in the southern part, in the riverine areas, right? So because of it, focus and priority is not given to Anambra Central when it comes to schistosomiasis, which is understandable. Resources are scarce, so you put it in areas where there is a problem. You prioritize certain areas over others, but that does not mean that there are no issues here.
Yeah.
So it got me thinking, if we cannot treat our people, the least we can do is teach them. And which is why I say my research is culturally grounded, because if you want to make our people pay attention to you, speak the language they understand, use their culture. Our people do not joke with children, or anazon, as they say. And a child is the home. A child is the home. So I thought long and hard about how do we communicate the importance, the severity of this illness to our people. And I've worked with adolescents, I've worked with children in primary schools, and I've come to realize that the key is the children. Teach a child, and she goes or he goes ahead to teach the entire community.
You run with it.
They run with it. Thank you. So we started a school health club in my hometown, CKS, Christ the King Seminary Noon. And within weeks of starting the school health club, within weeks of minor health club activities, we just started with poster and peer-to-peer lessons. Teach the children to teach each other. But within those few weeks of just starting it, all the community could talk about was Nasino Shistopin.
Sado.
Nasino Guinea. KK Bute. The health center had a record. They recorded lots of visits about people coming in. Nurse Biko, asina nwam jelebe, potana kolom makagini. What is this? You know, that kind of thing. The questions were being asked, the conversations were being had. Because the children were talking about it.
Now that you've talked about it, I think we should also, by the way, I allowed us to speak in English because I also know that it's important that funding is taken care of as far as this disease is concerned. After sensitization, the next big thing is funding so that it gets, the people who are either victims or people living in such environments they have the financial assistance that they can get in terms of health, in terms of the health, by the way. Why I'm saying, sorry, I'm going to take this again. I know that, sorry, I'm not supposed to laugh. Okay. So I mentioned the English thing because I wanted us to speak so that people who will fund the healthcare facilities in different parts of Nigeria, in Africa, it's a tropical disease, would listen and hear. I believe to a very large extent, English is some sort of formal, language. So anybody who listens to this from anywhere would understand the gravity of this disease, the gravity of its effect. That's why we started in English. But then because I want to talk about how we can eradicate or even manage this disease, I would want you to now say it in Igbo language because I need you to, you don't have to be so perfect in it. I'm sorry we are in the place where we now say we shouldn't be perfect in Igbo, but you understand what I'm saying. Something that, okay, finally, after everything, okay, just quickly, and also let us know the things we can do. I think the government and anybody who is interested in helping already get the point from everything you've already said. So what I want you to do now is just maybe let us know how we can eradicate or manage or even contain the disease, and what should the healthcare system look like for victims and survivors. Just let people know about this. So, just something briefly before we end it.
I wish I wish my students were here. Honestly, one of them very recently had presented a drama in a campaign with the Anambra State government during the world, because INA celebrates the World NCD Day. So they presented a drama in Igbo language entirely. It was flawless. So I wish I had that in me.
Where can we watch this presentation?
Oh, of course, I can share it with you. It's also on my LinkedIn and Instagram pages as
okay,
well.
so aboni na-ekili phone onyonyo akita. I nwere ike ịga na Instagram ide Nwadi Uto Azugo. That's your name, yeah? Nwadi Uto Azugo. Instagram. Ị ga-afụ ife ngosi dị iche iche. Ife ejije, that is play. Dị iche iche ụmụaka gosipụtago maka ọya anyị na-ekwu maka ọ dị mkpa onye ọbụla na-ekili ife akwuche gị dị ya ịghọta ka ije kilie ka ịnụ ihe asụ n'Igbo, mana ọ ga-agwakwazi anyị kịta n'asụsụ Igbo ife a na-ekwu maka ya bụ ka ga-esi wee gbanarị ya na ife ndị ekwesịrị ime ka ọ wee dị nwuo mma. That's basically it. So yeah, let's just go on.
So ndị be afọ ya bụ SCHISTOSOMIASIS. Mana enwekwa ike ikpe ya okpoma mmiri. If I decide, if I kwatezi na gana akpọzi n'Igbo okpu na-eme na ebe mmadụ si bụrụ nwoke ma ọ bụ ebe mmadụ si bụrụ nwaanyị. Na ihe anyị ji wee bịa ebe a bụ maka ụmụ nwaanyị ịghọtago ka anyị wee malụ na ife a ụdịla ọya na-ebutela ụmụ nwaanyị anyị nnukwu nsogbu dị iche iche, ọkachasị maka na ọ bụ ọya a na-ebute na mmiri na-eru eru ma mmiri dị adọ. Mmiri be anyị ọ bụrụ ndị nnobi be anyị, ọ bụrụ mmiri mgbọ be anyị, mmiri anyị gasị, mmiri ide mmiri digisa, nwa broda, mmiri ezu, anyị na-ejegasị ebe ọ bụ ọsọsọ ịkwa azụka na-eme na mmiri ndị be anyị ma anyị ejele ebe ahụ eso iru onugbu maọbụ ịmacha ụkwa maọbụ ịsacha akpụ maọbụ ịsa keke ma ịsụ ma akwa ma ndị na-ekpo aja n'akụkụ mmiri ịbanye na mmiri okpo anụnwa bụ okpo anyị na-ebute maka na ejuna na-adị na mmiri na-ebu dị okpo n'ime arụ ya. Ejuna abanyezi na mmiri oyie ya bụ okpo ka ọ na-eyi akwa. Anyị jezie ebe ahụ ịsụ maọbụ igwu mmiri ime efe niile anyị na-eme na mmiri, okpo abanye anyị n'arụ. Ọ banyazi anyị n'arụ, ọkachasị anyị nwa bụ ụmụ nwaanyị. Ọ banye anyị n'arụ, o bido gaghalịba tiloluo n'ebe anyị si anyụpụta mmiri. Ebe a ka ọ ga-adọlụzi, ebe a ka a na-akpọ kidney maọbụ bladder. Ebe a ka ọ ga-adọlụzi too bụrụ nwoke bụrụ nwaanyị, biko yibezie akwa. Akwa aha na-adị ka ogwu, ọ na-enwe ihe dị ka ogwu. Ogwu a na-abụzi ọ na-agafezi ị na-anyụ mmiri, ọ na-agafezi n'ebe isi anyị mmiri, ịma na ebe anyị si anyụ mmiri na ebe anyị ji bụrụ nwoke na nwaanyị dịkọtara ọnụ. Ọ na-agafezi ebe afọ,
ọ na-abụ ọnya
dị iche iche. Ụfọdụ oge ọ banyezi anyị n'ime arụ nke anyị ji bụrụ nwoke, nke anyị ji bụrụ nwaanyị, ebe a na-akpọ cervix. Si ebe a banye ma ebe a na-akpọ fallopian tube, bido bube mgbu dị iche iche. Onye ahụ nwee ike gbọba abụ ole. Onye ahụ nwee ike gbọba abụ, n'idiri ịma nwoke, obele nwa 14 years, obele nwa 12 years, nke anyị fụrụ na Nsugbe bụ nwa 12 years. Obele nwa 12 years na-amabeghị nwoke ga-ebute nwunye ọya, maka na ọ bụrụ ọya mmekọ nwoke na nwaanyị. Ọya na-ebute na mmiri, kama na ọ na-emejọ ebe anyị ji bụrụ nwoke na nwaanyị. Maka ụfọdụ n'ime ụmụ nwaanyị anyị ime kwa ọtụtụ. Fact ka ngwakwụzie dị unu na ihe a na-akpọ cervical cancer, ọya so akọsụ ya bụ cervical cancer. So o ji ihe njekwe ka o ji dị mkpa ka anyị na-aghọta maka ọya dị iche iche. Anyị ada anụkebe maka ya, maka na ọya na-eme ndị ogbenye, ndị ọ na-enwero ka ọ rafa, mana ọ bụrụ ya kpatalụ na ya na-ekwu maka ya. Maka na nwa ogbenye bụ nwa mmadụ. A sị na ọgaranya bụla anyị gị na-eme ụmụ ogbenye. So kịta anyị chọzi ka ọgaranya abụọ ya bụrụzi anyị, ka everybody nwee an idea about it, ka mmadụ niile malụ maka ya.
Ka ife ya bụ pụta n'ahụ gị, ma na ihe a na-eme gị.
Ibido fụga ọbala ma ị na-anyụ mmiri, ị nọrọ na nsọ gị mana ị na-anyụ mmiri na-afụ ọbala. Ụmụnne anyị nọgasị na ndị mba mmiri, mana bifo ha mụtaba maka ọya, ọ na-abụ ife eji ama aka ma nwoke bi nyọọ mmiri fọba ọbala na mmiri ya, mana ndị mmadụ anya ma nọ ọya anọ. So ọ dị mkpa ibido notice bi na ịchọla ịma mmiri mgbu, ọ na-egbusi gị mgbu ike, maọbụ ịchọla ịnyụ mmiri fọ ọbala na mmiri gị, obito ụfụ, nnukwu ụfụ, painful urination, jebe na health center dị gị nso ka ị gwafa nekwa ife na-eme gị. Ndị health center anyị, ndị community health workers anyị, ndị nọọsụ anyị nọgasị na health center, ha macha maka ya. And ọgwụ dị free. Ha afọ ọgwụ ahụ Praziquantel a na-eke n'ụlọ ọgwụ na health center anyị for free. Ka ịfụrụ ya na health center, ije n'obele chemist dị gị n'akụkụ, oluro 1000 naira igolia. Ịgwa chemist igolia. Ọ nọ nnọọ ife atọ ọgwụ okpu. So otu isi anwụ ọgwụ okpu every 3 months, every 4 months. So taki kwesịsị na anwụ ya every 3 months, every 4 months. Especially ma ọ bụ na ị na-eje na mmiri
oge niile. Okay. Ọ dị mma, daalụ nne nwadị ụtọ. We're going to stop here. Thank you so much for this. I mean, ma ndị ọkọwala ife anụnwa, biko ọ bido mebe gị gbaa mbọ gaa n'ụlọ ọgwụ ka dọkịnta gwa gị ihe ị ga-aṅụ, otu ị ga-esi nwe, mana kịta ọka gwọta oge ịmago kilikili ife ga na-emegasị ọ bụ na ị na-eje na ebe mmiri dị oge niile. And thank you very much, nwadị ụtọ. I was going to ask you questions about your life outside of this, but then we probably do not have the time, and I think I should have a whole podcast where we talk about your life out of this, because I know you're fun too. I mean, I'm not saying this is not fun, but I'm just saying. But because we're talking about women and their health, and because this is a disease prone to, the less privileged, it's very important that we talk about it without mixing anything, so people know how serious it is. Remember that this year's International Women's Day theme is Rights, Justice, Action for all women and girls, and that's why Nwadiuto and a couple of advocates in the world are fighting hard to make sure that women are healthy, women are safe, and even men, as a matter of fact. This is also for men and this is for women. But thank you very much. Thank you very much for doing this with us, Nwadiuto. I'm saying a lot of things at the same time, I know. Thank you so much, Nwadiuto, for coming.
Thank you for having me. This is a really nice space.
Thank
You guys should always tune into our voice podcast.
Did you hear that? Our voice podcast on I-95. Thank you so much. And I hope to do this again very soon. I'm Amanda Elo. Spread the word. Make sure this particular episode you share it with your grandmother, your sister, your uncle. Explain to them, and do not forget to look for I-95 Studio. We do amazing things here. This podcast space is all could be yours too, if you want to, just in case you want to showcase something. You want to host a podcast, we have a podcast space here. You want to take pictures, you want us for your outdoor coverage, you want to buy cameras or any device with, related to shooting people. I mean, the media shooting. Please come to I-95 Studio, Oka. I'm Amanda Elo. I've said that like 3 times, but I just want you to know that it is me, and it's been amazing. And I thank the men behind the camera. Thank you so much for doing this for us. We hope to see you again, same time, same space, wherever you see this, and we hope you keep sharing and talking about I-95 Studio. Thank you so much.
We capture love, joy and grace. Every frame they speak your face. From Oka to the world, no debate. 995.